Hi, my name is Natasha Cheney. I'm the founder of Family Therapy here in Ottawa. And today we're going to talk with Matthew Layne, who's a therapist here at Family Therapy, about grief. And grief is a topic I would bet a lot of people don't want to talk about, Matthew.
Yeah, absolutely. It's can be a really challenging, moment in someone's life to go through. Absolutely.
Yeah, grief is one of those things I think people they're not sure how to deal with it, what's normal, what's not normal, how should I grieve? And then having to actually talk about all of the sadness and loss must be really hard.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think a lot of people inherently struggle with this because it's often just so personal and tied to our lives, right?
Yeah, I like that. It's so personal. Absolutely. Because how I would grieve could be 100% different than how you grieve as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the other part also is um, grieving is normal and natural.
Yeah.
And and so there's it's normal to be sad and grieving, but then how do I know when I have grief that's just kind of stuck, or I just can't get out of it and it's impacting my life? How do I know when I need to talk to somebody about my grief?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, right? Because we all kind of have those moments maybe sometimes where we experience some sort of loss or an event where we're grieving and you start to question, is this too much for me? And do I need help right now? And trying to decipher that. I think a great way to kind of start to reflect and look into that is how it impacts your life. If you're going through a grieving process, as we all do, like you said, it's so natural in our lives as humans to grieve through our lives. Getting to that moment of, do I need help? I think really involves looking how much that's impacting. Am I struggling with my day to day, things like it's going to the grocery store really hard right now because I'm grieving. I'm so sad and I'm stuck in bed. Is it impacting how I normally carry out my lives from before when this grief was? And you're finding it's a little too much, then maybe that's a good sign that you might need some help and some guidance to navigate the path of your grief.
You brought up a concept there that I think it's important to talk about, because grief isn't just about death,
Hmm.
right? And I think a lot of people think, oh well, I'm grieving, it's because I've lost, someone important in my life,
Right.
but it also could be other important areas in your life, such as I've lost my dream job,
Yeah.
right? Or I can't play the sport anymore, or I was trying to be, an athlete of some type of caliber and I didn't make the team. I'm talking high level here, not just well, I mean, you can grieve even if you didn't make the school team.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I mean, what type of other grief is there besides, I'll say, just say the death of somebody in your family or acquaintance?
Yeah, and exactly like you were talking about, there's grieving over such a variety of things that we go through our lives, and naturally, maybe even without knowing, we've grieved many different elements of our lives without even really knowing it. But sometimes they can feel really big, and it all just depends. But you can grieve almost anything. It could be the death of a pet. It could be absolutely to the classic of loss of a loved one. It could be from moving from one house to another to a different neighborhood. And, it could be from life transitions, especially retiring from working a full career or leaving school for the first time and entering the workforce. These different parts of our lives all, of course, hold a place and they're a part of who we are. And as we transition from, life with a loved one to now life without a loved one, from students into working adults, whatever it may be, sometimes we grieve that loss of what was and are maybe scared of what is to come.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Like life transitions, right? Those
Yeah.
those are huge ones. I mean, can you imagine moving from one city to the other? And I mean, Canada's such a wide country, and every region is so difficult or so different, not difficult.
Absolutely.
That move could be really difficult for you.
Yeah, part of your life was in this area for a time and coming and starting a new life to a degree. So you're going to grieve a part of your old life that was there, the elements that you really enjoyed, maybe the ones you didn't enjoy, but there will be grief and sadness there for sure.
So, what would you say to someone who feels like they've been grieving for what they consider to be too long of a period or a long period, that they're just not getting out of that grief?
Yeah, and that's another thing that I think people often struggle with is what does the process look like? How long is this supposed to take? And there really is no answer. There's no timeline for grief. We all approach it at our own pace and in our own ways. And if taking a year or whatever the person deems to be too long, is the time it's taking. It's just the time it's taking, and that's where a therapist can help them come in and navigate that path and navigate the feelings of being on that path, maybe for that extended amount of time and the other parts of that that come with it.
So do people like with grief, does it come in waves or is it just like just sadness for a long time?
Right. Yeah, and that's another aspect of the process is there's most likely, commonly, there are stages of grief, as we'll commonly call them, and there are different philosophies on that. And you can experience them at different times. There can be sadness, there can be anger, there can be frustration, denial, these different components and these different feelings. And you may feel one in the beginning that it meant sadness. You work on it and then it passes and you're working through some anger. And then the sadness comes back. And that's kind of part of the process of grief is it will ebb and flow and being able to sit with, I'm feeling sad right now. And that's okay. I'm going to give myself the space to be sad right now because I'm going to be kind to myself and let myself feel that. And then continue on with your process is really, really important.
And I think that's important, that thought you just said, just be kind and gentle with yourselves, right? People think like I have to, like it's like a train, I gotta get to each station.
Yeah.
But for some people, the gap between stations is much longer.
Yeah. And then sometimes you'll end up circling back to an old station and, do a quick visit there and then continue on your journey. And it ebbs and flows and just taking it a day at a time and doing the best you can.
Yeah, I think that's important. I think some people worry that if they move too fast through their grieving or they're no longer grieving the death of a lost one, um, and that may, does that mean that they're, forgetting the person or they're not doing it properly?
Right. Yeah. I've come across this as well of, if I grieve and go through this process, am I just going to forget about this person? Because I don't want that. I want to be able to hold that. But it's so intense right now to do that. And coming to that place of peace with it and coming to that solace of being able to hold those memories in remembrance of that loved one is a very possible and very normal part of the process. And forgetting and leaving it behind, it doesn't have to be the case. You can avoid, but it's sometimes better to embrace that remembrance and sit with that feeling.
Yeah, I think that's important, just that sitting there, thinking about it and just being kind for yourself as you go through this journey of grief and loss.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, if people want to reach out to you, Matthew, how can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me on the Family Therapy website, and you can reach our receptionist to book in a consultation. And you can also find me on Psychology Today, as I'll be putting out. And my contact information is available online.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Matthew, for your time. It was great talking today.
Great talking to you as well. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. We'll talk to you again. Thanks so
Oh,
much.
thanks.